welcome to episode 17 of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. I've loaded up a space station core with basically a mobile processing lab, hopefully to get this into Kerbin Orbit. We have Hading ready to fly, and Nettle and Bob manning the science station when we actually get there. So there's one thing I noticed that I didn't grab that I should have. Well, actually, I think I did. Oh, it's right there. Never mind. So we have power. We have a communitron. You know, this thing doesn't have any additional battery storage. So I do want to give it that. So let's zoom in here and open up the utility bay. Zoom in with shift and the wheel. And this holds an electrical charge of 400. I believe that is going to be plenty. Now the top is a little bit wobbly, but that's alright. We're going to turn off this torque. We don't need it. We'll keep that torque enabled. And we've turned off the gimbals. We're ready to launch, I think. Yep. So a little quick save. We're just going to put this thing in orbit, and then we're going to start working on how to make science with the mobile processing lab. Up and away we go. Give ourselves a few taps over here to get going oriented sideways. And we should be able to turn off SAS and let the rocket sort of fly itself now. Goodbye, boosters. Thank you for your hard work. Full throttle. This is going to be a low thrust-to-weight ratio sort of launch. I probably should have been full throttle with the mainsail the whole time, or the skipper the whole time. But that's okay, I'm not worried. We have a poodle to finish orbiting this thing once our ascent stage sort of gets done. And this is going to act as a tug, basically. And some stuff along the way. So, still climbing, still gaining speed. We'll see how this launch actually goes. Okay, we are at 50 degrees at 20 kilometers, and we're still gaining speed pretty good. We might be reaching the capabilities of this particular type of rocket now. I could always put on 6 boosters if this doesn't work out, but I think we're going to be alright. Yeah, we're getting plenty of speed now. So, bring up our orbital controls. Still on surface mode. Current altitude 35 kilometers, which means our air resistance is very small. We can see in the atmospheric gauge here, there's hardly any atmosphere left to get in our way. And once again, using the gravity turn, I haven't put any control inputs other than my initial controls. And we are about ready to drop a stage. 71, 2. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take this up to 75, 4, 5, or 80. We'll take it to 80. 80. This thing is going to be an 80-kilometer sort of rocket. Take it prograde. We go to our map. And add a maneuver to circularize our orbit as is standard procedure. With our tug, we'll be able to do fine-tuning of this. We only have 29 seconds with the current motor, but we know that that is going to be different when we get rid of the stage. In fact, what I may just do, and we have literally no fuel left anyway, I would rather ditch the stage and know what my true estimated burn time is with this other rocket motor. Now, it's possible that this design might be capable of reaching the moon, which would be incredible. I'm going to wait for 13 seconds on the clock. Punch up full throttle. 16, 17, 16, 15, 14. Full throttle, here we go. We're sending this satellite to orbit. Again, we're going through this fuel much more slowly because we have a Poodle. The Poodle engine has 350 specific impulse in vacuum, which is one of the best engines other than the nuclear engines you can get. It also means it's particularly well suited for landing on the moon. Or as the workhorse for a transfer stage or something. It's, you know, it's a pretty darn efficient engine. Keep looking at it. It's got 250 kilonewtons of thrust. Okay, we are almost in orbit. We are close enough in orbit that we can actually take a look. Apoapsis is 86, periapsis is 73. We need to face orbit anti-radial. And now we're just using our batteries, which we have plenty of. Oops. We're just going to clean up our orbit a little bit. We have presently a 78 by 80 orbit. So what we're going to do is warp to here and then circularize. Okay, we are at the apoapsis. So we need to face the periapsis, or face the prograde marker, and just apply a little bit of thrust to raise our periapsis, circularize, just like that. Still got plenty of fuel in here, and we will reorientate like so. Get all of our solar panels extended. And we now have the very first permanent space station in orbit around Kerbin. The lab is operational. Let's open our stuff. So here's how using the lab works in Kerbal Space Program. Now, as you can see, this materials-based study by itself wouldn't actually give us all that much science. But we can send it into the processing lab, and the lab has a certain amount of data available. It has 500 data available. So we can take this materials-based study, process it in the lab, and it slowly fills up the lab capacity. Do the same thing with the mystery goo. And the temperature. So basically what we're doing is just using all these experiments and sending them into the lab, where it's going to hold all the data. And the lab will slowly use up that data to generate science every day. We have an atmospheric pressure scan while in space near Kerbin. We could keep that one. So now we've got 37 data sitting in the lab. We have successfully used up all of our electrical charge. Probably transferring the data. So we need to get around to the other side of Kerbin. There we go. Now we're recharging the batteries. Oops. Don't need to do that. You can stay right where you are. Now that we have the material, so we can do that again. It uses some power to load the data into the lab, so we got to keep that in mind. We have 68 data in the lab. Okay, so the lab has a copy of each of these experiments, and can't take any more. The other thing we can do, get a crew report, send that over to the lab for a little bit of data. And we can do a grand tour of EVAs. So we're going to get over, oops. We're going to board, get over this desert, like so. EVA once again. We review this data, we can send that over to the labs. No. EVA here. Send that to the labs. Discard. That was over. That'd be over the KSC. So we're just trying to find all sorts of biomes and stuff to do this stuff on. If I do an EVA here, what do we get? The Highlands, keep that board. Review the story data. Okay, that's a repeat. But you get the idea. This might be over the mountains. Let's try around here. Still a Kerbin Highlands. Still Kerbin Highlands. Goodness. How many Highlands are there? Had to clear my throat there. Okay. Now. I don't have any reports. Are there going to be any other interesting biomes I'm going to care about? Yes. Right over here, actually. Maybe here and there. Get an EVA on. Hopefully this is the mountains. God dang it. Still a stupid highlands. I'm trying to get an EVA over the mountains here. Finally. Keep that. Grab. Board. Review. Send it to the processing lab. Takes a little bit of time and some energy to do so. And we can discard that. Now, our science lab is filled with 115 science. It's currently in orbit around Kerbin. Has a couple of scientists on board that aren't particularly skilled. In fact, they're quite new. But if I start the research, these guys will spend some of their spend some time getting that research done. I'm just going to orient myself so the solar panel, is always exposed to the sun. At least for a while. Okay, so that's it for that one. Now, that one's going to give us 1.539 science per day. Let's go ahead and have Hading return. Switch ships. Hading, you will face retrograde, please. Oh, yes. Turn on your torque. And Hading will go ahead and ditch his engine stage. And prepare for re-entry. So that's it for that little mission, actually. He's down on the ground. What do we got going on here? Got a lander. Got the stage station. Got some debris. Just doing a quick cleanup here. Stuff on the ground. That's space station debris. So, satellite mission 1. Now again, if we fly this craft, what we see is we're going to be getting about 0.15 science per day. It's not a lot of science, but basically it's just more or less free science over time. You can see it building science up now as we time warp. There you have it for episode 17, our very first permanent satellite, or space station, our very first permanent crewed space station. Here we have these guys in here, looking around. doing science stuff. And this station is now going to generate some science over time. We'll go ahead and time warp a little bit, and as it generates science, the data does get used up. So every once in a while, we'll want to refresh it with new data, and we can get that from the same experiments. That's not a big deal. Every time it goes into the shadow, it loses power, though. And it's not able to do any work. So it's going to take longer. It'll be doing 0.07 or so science per day. But that's alright. You know, like I said, it's our very first permanent space station. I'm going to call that a close for the episode. I want to say thanks for watching, and take care. Until next time, goodbye!